Champion select powered by Omen and HyperX for the first time here in this best of 5. It's Bard and Azir banned out by AL. Bard has been banned against T1 for every game except that FlyQuest best of 1 so far. Keria earning a lot of respect on the pick, while T1 will ban away the Trundle and Yunara.
Yeah, unfortunately the West has become the experimentation chamber here because it was the Bard against FlyQuest. It was this Azir against MKOI that really made teams take notice and go, okay, we don't want to give these ones across. So AL making sure that both those champions aren't going to go across, but with Trundle banned away, are they trying to bait Flandre into this Sion first pick?
I mean, very well may be the case. I feel like with, Ambessa and everything up, maybe not worth the investment, but we'll see. Taliyah also here, pretty big pick up and available. The Ryze as well. A lot of things to choose for as far as the priority.
Okay, Nico and Orianna, the last 2 bans here in the first half. Both, of course, very high-tier picks in their respective roles. So no Azir, no Orianna. First pick of the entire draft is going to be the Qiyana here for Tarzan.
And this has been such a strong pick in the LPL. Now continuing on towards Worlds, Tarzan has already won on this champion at Worlds as well. It looks like they're going to try and focus on, okay, let's get some early aggression here, see if we can snowball off of early skirmishes and really take it in those objective fights later.
Yeah, the team fight is so big for it, the execution so big. With the Trundle ban that you're looking at though, of course the Sion does rise in priority, and T1 are happy to grab it for Doran. Flandre, we'll see what the response is, but there are plenty of options for him to still go into it.
Okay, and we do have that Taliyah locked in here for T1, one of the most picked mid laners throughout the tournament thus far. A lot of power roaming to those side lanes, a lot of opportunity to make big plays there with the seismic shove. And like you already talked about, Kobe, Faker's been the one doing a lot of heavy lifting for this team, so giving him the playmaking feels good.
And as far as the options into the Sion, Flandre has been one of the best, if not the best, Rek'sai at the tournament, and that looked very good into the Sion.
The only thing I'm nervous about, though, is with the Taliyah now locked in, it opens up for Oner to go for the Wukong, and I think that's been one of his best picks when he's able to have this level 6 power spike that you can play towards those early objectives at, and with the Taliyah Wukong is such an exceptionally strong combo if you can manage to make that one work.
And back on the AL side, we've got the Ryze, we've got the Rek'sai locked in for Flandre as well. He has played this pick 3 times already at Worlds, by far his most played, considering they've only had to play 5 games to get here so far. But it is not the Wukong on the T1 side. Instead, going for the Pantheon, most likely for Oner, of course, still could have a support angle there, so we won't rule that out just yet.
Yeah, the guaranteed point and click for the seismic shove setup here, and the double, almost triple globals with a Sion ultimate as well, so lots of ability to try and answer Ryze split push, but we're looking at the bottom lanes now.
Yeah, it looks like T1 are trying to set up for either the Caitlyn or the Varus pick with the Ziggs ban, so I'm curious if anyone's legend want to try and shift and take those 2 priorities away. Instead, focus on towards the support role, taking away the Poppy, maybe looking towards an Alistar as well, try and pinch that pool for Keria in the bottom lane.
Yeah, honestly, keeping Keria down, you need to add the Poppy. There they go. That's kind of the trifecta there of the big Keria champions. Put some extra pressure down there. As you're saying, the Caitlyn does look quite good. Pushing lanes have been so valuable here at Worlds.
It's also just Gumayusi's Varus popped off against MKOI, and it has been such a strong pick for him for so many years. I think it'd be good to try and get rid of that, but we'll have to see if anyone's legend want to try and focus on that on this last ban.
Okay, so alongside the bottom lane carry bans of the Sivir and the Ziggs from T1, it's going to be double support bans from AL, looking at the Alistar alongside that Poppy. Poppy, of course, we know the power of the pick in being able to stop engages, make team fights unfair with the ultimate. Alistar just giving you so much dive opportunity, so much ability to start things off. But there it is, the Gumayusi Varus.
Yeah, I mean, he's so exceptional on this pick and has been renowned for so many years, whether he's stealing Barons or stealing the hearts of so many fans after he's broken them. But here we go, Ezreal going to be locked in on the opposite side. I don't mind this actually going to be swapped. I think the only thing with the Ezreal is going to be trying to get through that tank front line. Jhin going to have a very similar story, so I wasn't sure if anyone's legend would try and swap away from it, but definitely want something that can try and get through this very beefy front line.
Yeah, and something that can follow up on plays that are pretty far away from you. If you're looking at Qiyana and Rek'Sai dive or Ryze Realm Warp side lane plays there as well. Gonna need something that can follow up and cover some distance.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if they're going to go for something like a Thresh Jinx or something along those lines still to try and have some play in that realm, but I know we haven't really seen a huge amount of Jinx, and I think, again, you're just going to struggle here. So this is why I liked the Trundle ban coming out from T1, kind of posing that question of, well, AL, what do you value most here?
Right. If you're saying you want that Qiyana, that powerful LPL assassin jungler like you were talking about, Dagda, well, you're going to have to trade the meatball of the Sion for it. You can hear the arena getting excited at this hover, but we're not going to be baited here just yet. We'll see exactly what they want to go for here. Most likely for Keria. Again, it could still be the Pantheon as the support. I don't think it will be. No, it'll be Keria's Rakan as the final pick of the draft here for T1.
Yeah, pretty good matchup into the Braum. All the extra movement that Rakan does have here for that one. And honestly, the engage looks very, very heavy here for T1, opening up with a pretty standard draft.
It does feel to me, though, that if AL don't get off to a good lead early, they are really going to struggle in this matchup. Gumayusi can opt in towards the on-hit, as there's not a huge amount of threat in that back line apart from the Qiyana. But either way, you have a beefy front line. Great engage for T1, and on AL side, no one who can really get through the likes of this Sion. So if T1 just set up for objective fights and they have a lead, it becomes very easy to play out their composition.
Yeah, for me, I'm definitely going to be looking at the mid jungles and the mid jungle synergy, especially early on. Shanks here will definitely be a target. Pantheon plus Taliyah, even pre-level 6, they can go wild. They can put a lot of pressure there. So we'll see if Tarzan can track jungle, can keep Oner under wraps.
And focusing on the mid lane early will feel great, and then if they can get the ball rolling, like you already mentioned, the double semi-global ultimates, any sort of lead you can get allows you to apply that pressure to the side lanes, to the objectives, to make picks, to force fights that are not fair, even if AL might originally believe they are so. So for AL, particularly if you fall behind, it's so scary when you're trying to set up these plays.
Yeah, and you know how aggressive AL is going to want to play this. Like the last time we saw Tarzan play this champion, he was diving mid lane turrets to just set up a kill for himself. They really want to invest in getting this Qiyana ahead. So all eyes are going to be on Faker to make sure that he does not fall prey to it.
All right, we're on to the rift for game one in this quarterfinal best of 5 AL versus T1 for the last spot in the semifinals and the opportunity to play top esports for a chance at the finals. Runes coming up on your screen right now. We can see comment on the Varus, means lethality and poke, double summoner spellbooks here for our supports for the extra opportunities, utility, and playmaking.
And they sweep out with the early Oracle's lens here to grab that ward, take down the possible lane swap ward there, and it's going to be the regular reset. Sign back up to the normal lanes here. Remember, this series was exciting at MSI, so I hope that we can just continue right off that full 5 games.
And so far throughout this tournament, 100 Thieves and Imkoi pressuring T1, I think more than we expected them to in those best of 3s that T1 had to play, where I think a lot of people were expecting these gold graphs to be just straight up and to the right.
Yeah, we expected T1 to come out all guns blazing and being able to find those early pressure, find those kills, and suddenly skyrocket in towards their objective control where they like it the most. But when it came towards, especially that series against Mkoi, there was a lot of picks going across, there was a lot of skirmishes that ended up going in favor of Mkoi, and it really relied on those late game fights for T1 where they were able to excel, at that objective setup that really made the difference.
Yeah, I mean, we were seeing individual mistakes from members of T1 as well as team mistakes with, like, some fights you would have Doran engaging in a completely different direction from where Oner was going. And so it has made people a little bit worried here as to the form of T1 coming into this series.
And of course, that does mean that T1 has had more time to practice. They've had more stage games, right? Like I said at the top of the day, anyone's legend, because of their success, it was 2 weeks ago that they played their qualifier match in that 2-0 bracket from the Swiss stage. So although that does give you extra time to prep, it gives you extra time to plan, look ahead and try to figure out the meta, figure out the things that other teams might not be wise to just yet. It does mean that you haven't had as many games under the lights.
And that's why I think this matchup in the top side is super interesting, because T1 off of that extra games played have thought, no, we're actually going to get rid of the Trundle and try and get this Sion for ourselves, which is their big investment in the draft. AL, at least off the games they play, believe that the Flandre is going to be good enough on this Rek'sai to outperform it. So I think that's where, when it comes to these team fights, how both these top laners perform is going to be the focal point of who comes out on top.
Yeah, 100%. Plus, we haven't had to show anything extra here from AL in the opening game. a lot of people looking forward to what AL have been able to cook, specifically Tabe, as far as the drafts, with all of the extra time that AL have had to observe the other teams. In game number 1, though, they're not showing anything new at all. You know, these are the normal priorities here with the Qiyana, with the Rek'sai that you do mention.
Okay, as we have Tarzan making a quick stop in the enemy jungle here just to place down the common ward near the enemy Raptor camp. Keep an eye on what's going on there as Oner has secured the bottom side. Scuttle Crab drops off a Raptor ward of his own. Both junglers will pass through the mid lane. Tarzan going to see Oner, who was coming around maybe for the play onto Shanks, but as soon as he knows it's a 2v2, he thinks better of it.
Yeah, first clear, very easy to track for both of them. Both of them having information, and as we were looking forward to from the draft, it was going to be an early convergence towards that mid lane, because you really can snowball it either way there with the extra pressure. So far, though, just clearing out the extra ward and the slight roam up from Kael. Again, another use of this sweeper. He's gotten a couple out of the early oracles, and keeping this pathway between mid lane and bottom lane clear is huge to be able to get those roams off.
Yeah, especially like Oner will get the information that, oh, the Raptors were just about to spawn, so we'll be able to track where Tarzan is going for the moment. But I think it is a case of trying to make sure you can also keep Tarzan safe in a lot of this, because Pantheon early matching into the Qiyana, if you have the support from Faker, you can very quickly burst out this Qiyana, and she's nullified entirely in these early skirmishes.
All right, taking a look down here in bottom lane, you can see the farm even here as it is pretty much everywhere thus far. We don't have any of these lanes pulling out to a major advantage early on. 4 seconds left on the clock before the Drake spawns is a Chemtech Drake, which often means you're not going to have as much early priority on it from junglers and bottom laners as it could be for something more valuable, especially considering, like I just mentioned, the neutral state of the lanes. Nobody's got prio over the nearby area.
Yeah, I think if you're T1 though, you can try and look for Pakuma. Might be caught.
Yeah,
force the flash.
Gumayusi losing the flash there, especially on Varus with the no innate mobility. That could be an opportunity for AL.
And what I was about to say was that Gumayusi and Keria have actually had a decent job of pushing in this lane on the bottom side, and that should open up then Oner to actually go for this dragon, especially as this wave's crashed and they get to bounce it back out. But now, down a flash, it makes Gumayusi a little bit more vulnerable if AL try to contest any sort of early dragon take.
The other thing to consider for the dragon, Flandre also still with a teleport. Okay, just uses it now on the Rek'sai.
Extra tower shot here for Shanks, but not too big. I was gonna say, Keria there was coming out of base off of his reset and had hovered towards mid. Now we're seeing another hover towards mid, but it is spotted by the warding here from AL. So good vision around mid lane. AL have known, yes, Shanks is going to be a target on this Ryze. We know that T1 want to be able to compound off of this Taliyah, but the other side is not warded.
Oh, Oner with the flash into the stun, going after Shanks, but he flashes to buffer through it, so no seismic shove there for the follow-up. You even saw Oner using his spear on nothing beforehand to charge the passive.
Yeah, really good job by Shanks there with the preemptive flash, because if that flick goes through, you're in a lot of trouble. But now Faker, having to escape, should be able to walk out on towards this bottom side. And it should just be Oner picking up the Raptors for himself.
Yeah, interesting here, because Tarzan is able to leech to level 6. He got that topside Scuttle Crab, so Qiyana very threatening with access to the ultimate, but nobody finding actual blood quite yet with all the focus towards mid lane. But Flowers, your #1 goal when you're trying to kill a mid laner is first step, blow their flash.
Yes.
So Shanks, no flash here. Very good trade for Oner to just go in and trade that, even though Faker was unable to follow up with the close seismic shove.
Yeah, my eyes are drifting towards 50 seconds until that next Void group though, and if you actually look at the bot lane, Keria is already preemptively swapped towards teleport, which means that then Keria can just stay on this bottom side and work alongside Gumayusi to keep this pressure and then TP to that next fight. So I'm curious if Kael is going to try and swap as well to keep himself in check and match alongside Keria.
And we mentioned the leeching of EXP to get Tarzan to level 6 there on the Qiyana. Oner now level 6 on his Pantheon. Whether they want to use that to try to make a play on the now flashless Ryze or make a play for the Void Grubs that you mentioned, Dagda, I really want to see some value out of this for Oner and T1.
Meanwhile, the lane's going pretty well for AL besides that Gumayusi lead that you do see. Flandre, we kept on talking about it, but he has put so much time into this Rek'sai. You know, looking at the solo queue accounts, spamming this champion, and he's gotten results because of it. And so they feel pretty confident in that matchup. He's earned his own lead so far, and here goes the movement towards those actual Void Grubs.
AL have a nice setup though. They've already pushed in bottom side as Shanks has moved down. They're trying to shift the Taliyah down to match, but this opens up Shanks to move quicker with that Realm Warp, and AL should be able to keep T1 at bay. I don't even think T1 can test here.
Yeah, for sure. With how much pressure Flandre has in the 1v1, the Rek'sai has a Sion under tower already, and you see Flandre proxying even, so T1 looks very good for them, or excuse me, AL looks very good for them to grab the grubs. Will T1 even try and answer anything on the other side of the map?
Exactly. You don't really see any movements immediately towards the Drake or anything like that. You saw a ping right now from AL onto the Drake pit, expecting that T1 might be trying to make that counterpunch there, but 3 grubs for the side of AL. When you already have all of this pressure, particularly in the top lane with your Rek'Sai having the lead over Sion and proxy farming him, feels really good to secure that this early. Now it will be T1 heading over to the Drake. A little bit delayed compared to the exact timing for the taking of the grubs, but they're still going to secure it without a fight, and that means it's 1-1 in the objective count as Doran heads back into lane here with the Sion ultimate to continue trying to farm.
This is a much slower early game than I was expecting. When you glance back towards MSI, there was so much activity in the early stages of that series across almost every single game, but both teams now at the World Championship trying to scope things out and see where they can get that small little advantage in this game number 1, because for so many of the players on the Rift, it means so much, especially on AL side, if they can take down T1.
And I see one of those advantages already manifesting. The gold that we were talking about for Flandre, the lead that he had, the pressure, it has turned into the item here. Titanic Hydra. This thing feels so good on Rek'Sai because auto attack resets really enable you to stack up your Fury even quicker so you can get your true damage bite. And it gives you massive wave clear. So again, pushing the extra tempo here if he's able to annihilate the minion wave, move into proxy again. You know, him plus Tarzan are well equipped now to make some plays.
And those plays are going to be made looking at one person in particular, and that is Gumayusi on the Varus. He is the 1 point of power right now for T1. He's the 1 role with an individual gold lead, and Rek'Sai and Qiyana want nothing more than to erase him at the very start of the fight.
And that's why both supports are doing a really good job of teetering through mid into bottom side as well. You can see all the vision that Keria has set up on this bottom side of the map, and it's now being slowly cleared out by Kael, essentially trying to keep both of their mid laners safe and those vulnerable AD carries in the mid safe as well.
And we know when AL are at their best, it is when both Tarzan and Kael are controlling vision and oftentimes linking up to work with each other to apply that pressure. I remember the interview that we had with Tabe, where he was talking about the close relationship of those 2 players outside the game as well, and how Tarzan really opened up Kael's confidence with communication in game, because Tarzan's Chinese is so good. He kind of came in and acted as this older brother figure for Kael. So we'll see. At the moment, Kael has been kind of like handling the vision on the bottom half, while Tarzan by himself had been handling the vision on the top half. But if you see them link up here with Braum and Qiyana, that is so much CC and possibilities for big plays.
Looks like they might be trying to right now as T1 trying to set up on this bottom side. Keria has to walk out from underneath the turret as AL moving towards him.
Keria with the grand entrance back over the wall. TP coming in now for AL. Shanks arrives right into the seismic shove. Doesn't take a whole ton of damage there. Going to back away. True Shot Barrage fires through. Back from all the way over in mid lane, but not going to find any targets. Oner also hanging around the area. But again, gentlemen, it just seems like nobody wants to be the one to force something that doesn't have to be forced here in this first game.
Well, AL want to make sure that they're not falling vulnerable to Oner, but a little bit of a play there on the bottom side, because Oner at any point in time can show up mid, can show up bot, and similar to Faker, where he's already pushed in this bottom wave, if they don't want to go for the dive mid, they can always try and rotate into something happening on that mid wave. So now T1 investing everything onto this bottom side.
Okay, Faker, Oner, and Keria squared up here to try to at least grab a turret plate, and they will be able to do just that. Faker collects the money. Keria still just trying to distract Tarzan and Kael. Shanks at 40% HP on the Ryze, but can still clear the wave away as Gumayusi applies pressure over in the mid lane. Going to secure the second plate on that turret as well, as T1 tries to claw back some of the distance from this gold lead. But again, Flandre is constantly running the show up here in the top lane, finding a third plate for himself.
So good, so comfortable on this champion. Again, though, everybody is always really happy to have a Sion on their team later in the game.
Yeah.
As long as he's not significantly behind, will provide a lot of front line presence. Doran, though, has had a rough tournament thus far, and so people are definitely looking for him to step up as it progresses.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that will be now at the next, or the Rift Herald in a minute 45, because you're going to see these first item completions, like things like the Triforce for Hope starting to come through. You've already got a lot of your top side of the map rail in a decent spot, so I think that's where they'll be looking to try and play. And with Dragon in 40 seconds as well, you can continue to put that pressure down as well. So I think it's more on T1 to find picks with Oner and Faker right now to disrupt the opportunity for AL to hit these spikes and play for this Dragon.
Yeah, let's see if they can get some early vision control. You see Keria at the moment through mid, through the control ward here, trying to go get some. And he can do this because his jungler is Pantheon. And Oner's always ready with the ultimate. But Flandre, the Flandre attacks up here is almost an entire turret already. Now Faker under tower. Tarzan has joined.
Okay, Faker throws out the Unraveled Earth, wants to make sure he can find his escape route here.
There you go.
And this is also the additional power, what I commented earlier, 3 Void Grubs with a side laner that's already winning this hard. This is AL. There's not a kill on the board, and Flandre's forcing down the first turret 14 minutes into the game. Now T1 starting up the second Drake. They want to try to keep stacking here. Keria disengaging as AL's on the approach. T1 grouped up as 4. The Drake is down to 2,000 HP. Faker joins up with everybody. It's a 5v5. They go in immediately as Doran tries to lead the charge with the flash estimating smash, but he's only going to be beat down himself. A lot of damage to Doran, but he is not down. Keria into the back line. The major engage from T1. Tarzan finds a supreme display of talent and making a 1-for-1 so far, but T1 have the health bars. Faker rides the Weaver's wall as Keria's about to die into the back line, but Kael falls. Tarzan falls. T1, they'll lose Keria as Gumayusi fights back, and Shanks is on the run. Faker and Guma looking for a little bit more with a piercing arrow going over the wall, and Faker's ready to flash. Another rock is thrown, and Shanks is buried. T1, 4 for 2.
Once again, it's Faker in the clutch in the fight, finds the flick to send AL into everyone on T1. What a play from the T1 mid laner.
The team fights, baby. And Doran's going to go for a flash ultimate here and just start out the fight. We're talking about the Sion value is always going to be there. He immediately got the Braum ult and the Braum wall out, and then Faker gets that shove into the Keria engage. Keria charms up 4 members, and even though they sacrifice the Sion, they get such a lead in the fight, they can then go for the chase.
And the fact that Doran ends up forcing Tarzan to flash out of River sets up so nicely for T1, because your biggest worry is a massive Qiyana ult in the middle of that fight, but you can't find your moment if you're not able to be in that fight.
T1 team fighting, man. 14 minutes into the game, we're at 0-0, and now it's T1 with a 4 for 2 lead. Damage dealt to champions in the last fight. It's Guma, it's Faker, it's Shanks, it's Hope. The carries on both sides doing all the damage, but now we might have yet another one as the Rift Herald makes its way onto the river.
And you just saw Guma's got some pretty good stats on Varus at Worlds.
Yup.
He's also stole some Barons that had a pretty big effect on some pretty important games. AL, though, this is not Baron. This is Rift Herald. They're going to grab this one. No Guma around to steal it.
Yeah, it looks like instead T1 going to try and push in mid and collapse onto this bot tier 1 to see if they can pick that one up for themselves, match the top tier 1 that AL have already taken. So T1 still getting value as Flandre actually does a good job of clearing out the wave to slow down this T1 play.
Flandre still obviously the point of power here for T1. Individual gold lead of 1.3K is the reason why T1 is not ahead in gold despite winning that team fight 4-2. We do also have a very interesting state with the feats of strength. First turret went over to AL. Obviously, feat of warfare went over to T1, and we're 2-2 now in neutral objectives. So this next Drake spawning in 3.5 minutes, or if we want to get really crazy, maybe the Otacon spawning even sooner than that, will be what decides who gets the better shoes.
You know everybody loves an Otacon fight.
Yeah.
You know it. These things are always exciting, and it is about the setup for those fights. So we'll see if you can control the area first and get the perfect perfect engage. The thing is, with a Rek'sai lead there, that is not a lead that just like wins you a game. This champion does a lot of setup. It can provide a lot of pressure, but it in itself is not a win condition. So they actually have to find, you know, like a flash knockup onto Gumayusi or something to actually put a stop to the Team T1 team fight. And look at this, the river control for T1 is pretty early.
Yeah, for AL, it has to be a way of finding a bypass to Doran. But Flandre going in.
Yeah, Flandre goes in for the flash. He wants to try to find Faker here. Needs a little bit more damage. Ulti to drop the aggro, and Shanks gets the kill. TP coming in from T1, but it might be a little bit of a problem. No, Doran has the ulti. Guarantees he does not get locked up, but still, that's T1 getting caught off guard. That's Flandre making the flash play that you wanted to see.
Yeah, immediately flash ultimate onto one of the carries. It's not Guma, but it's Faker, and they get the kill. That is Flandre coming up big on the world stage.
That is, though, no flash now for this next dragon that we were just hyping up how crucial it could be, or the next Adicon. So, although it's a nice pick, they don't actually get much more out of the back of it. So for AL, we'll have to keep track if they can still find that moment in the next fight, sans flash.
Yeah, exactly. You can't get an objective after that. It's not like it led into a turret take. It's not like it led into a dragon or an Otacon or anything like that. It feels good to get the extra money in the pocket, but still, AL are going to need every tool they can possibly get. These big fights come down to the carries, to the positioning. We saw the damage charts from that first big team fight, from the only big team fight, and both sides, it was mid and AD doing all the work. If one of those dies instantly, that's going to completely warp the landscape of the battle.
And that's why I want to see AL still going for these pick plays. And you can kind of see Kael and Tarzan are linking up to try and find ways where they can get some deeper vision down, find these moments they can play into the jungle of T1 and use those tight corridors. But at the moment, T1 get to clear out their waves. We got a minute now where everyone's starting to reset until this dragon comes through, and that's where we're going to see our next big fight.
And along with those resets, we're seeing second purchases. Shanks is about to hit 10 stacks on his Rod of Ages as well. We've got the Muramana almost ready to evolve for Hope. We've got it almost ready to evolve for Gumayusi as well. Those should both be fully stacked by the time the dragon fight comes around. Seraph's Embrace going to be completed for Shanks, already completed for Faker alongside that Ryze. Everybody's hitting these big power spikes, and I expect that to also be a huge factor.
And we've got Otacon here. T1 pushing on top side, trying to set up around it very early on. Again, the flashes will be critical here.
Oh, Hope goes forward, but immediately Keria is ready to try to respond here with the grand entrance. Hope tries to get over the wall. He sidesteps the seismic shot, but the damage from Oner is way too much. A big mistake from AL, and a bigger punish from T1. Tarzan goes in! Supreme display of talent onto 3, but there is no follow-up. Tarzan has to try to flash away. Oner goes after him, but now he's trapped. Shanks with a little bit more damage, kills off the T1 jungler. The realm warp's ready to go in, and Shanks wants another. The arrows fly out as Doran charges in. Shanks with a flash to the side to avoid the engage coming out from T1's top laner. Doran's gonna try to run. Another arrow flies out from Gumayusi, as now Keria's got to be careful as he battle dances in and out of the fight. Hold on, we've got a respawn from Kael. He teleports back, and now it looks like AL is gonna take the opportunity to go after the Otacon.
AL have to try and rush this. They know that they've only got a couple of seconds until Oner's back up, and he has that ultimate available. The interrupt is huge because that will stop T1 responding with the dragon.
Exactly. Big interrupt there on Gumayusi, and AL, despite the fact that their bottom lane duo gets caught out, despite the fact that that fight looked so good for T1 at the start, claims the Otacon. Here it is again.
Yeah, the counter engage was so good for AL. Hope here, he arcane shifts forward, that immediately gets hit with Gumayusi's ulti. They are able to buy some time, but immediately Oner flashes over, they get the kill. Here is the counter engage though. They pop down the Rift Herald, and they got the big Qiyana ult, as you know, but back to live, the dragon is important. T1 already starting it out.
Crucially, Tarzan had the Axiom arc, so his Supreme Display talent is nearly back up. AL want to fight this.
This is sole point if T1 secure it. AL know that this puts them in a very bad spot. Dragon down to 1,000, already going to be secured by Oner. AL continuing to walk forward, but they decide better of it. There's nothing left to fight over. So Otacon plus feats of strength over to AL's side, but T1 then claiming soul points and in a position to claim soul every 5 minutes hereafter.
A very tense position in the game, Flowers. Everybody's looking at the next dragon now. With the power of the Otacon, it's not super super big at the moment with only the 19 petals being picked up. It's a pretty early one there. It does give the nice on-kill effect, though, for AL, and this is a team that has a lot of burst damage in it, so you might actually see the use of that extra on-kill effect. I mean, Tarzan, we saw the big Qiyana ult just before we went back to live in the previous one, and he might be able to find another.
And with that Otacon take, securing feats of warfare for AL, look at the inventories of Flandre and Tarzan. They both already immediately upgrade to the tier 3 shoe, so while everybody else in the game, particularly on the T1 side, is at their 2-item power spike, it's that 2.5-item power spike for the AL side because they can afford that extra upgrade for the 500 gold after having the 2 full completed items right beforehand, right before that Otacon timer. I'm very curious how much that's going to pay off here for Flandre and Tarzan. Shanks oftentimes too, you see mid laners go for that tier 3 boot very quickly, so this could be a big power spike for them if they want to fight again soon, but it's still 3.5 minutes until that next Drake spawns.
For T1, though, it feels like the 2 tower power spike. The fact that you managed to get that mid lane tower down makes it very easy for you to abuse Gumayusi's wave clear and start shifting constantly down, putting pressure on towards this bottom side of the map. And once you get that last tower down, then it becomes much easier for T1 to establish that vision for the upcoming Infernal Soul, for these picks that they can try and find, because both compositions incredibly strong when they can play in these pockets of vision.
Yeah, both of them have so many tools to make picks and quickly get those kills. See about the lockdown and the chain CC here. T1, they fully reset and come all the way back out, down to the bottom side of the map. So this is going to allow Flandre to push in the side wave. You see top lane will be in AL's favor, but he doesn't have teleport, so it's not going to be any sort of big teleport flank play or anything. It just means somebody from T1 will have to go answer, and it looks like Faker elects to go pick up the extra gold.
Okay, we do have Faker also. 2 needlessly large rods in inventory means the Rabadon's death cap. He will certainly have enough gold for that 2.5 minutes from now in time for that Dragon Soul fight. And it's Mountain Soul as well, putting that on a Sion when the enemy team already has an Ezreal as the AD carry instead of a tank buster is very scary.
Yeah, the Infernal Soul with like the poke from Gumayusi is going to be incredibly strong.
Sorry.
You're good,
Yeah.
you're good. It's going to be so strong, and honestly for Faker as well. But crucially, Gumayusi and Faker, Flash is just about to come off cooldown. Same when you look at Oner as well, right? Like, you have so many of those tools now up and available for you for this next Dragon fight, or even if you want to go for a sneaky T1 Baron.
Right, Baron makes his way onto the Rift. I was doubting a little bit that we might get as early of an Otacon as we did. I was proved wrong. We'll see if we get an early Baron in this one as well. The gold lead still less than 1,000 gold for AL despite the slight kill lead for T1, and neither one of the teams has really pulled away any further than that throughout this entire first game.
Yeah, I love the way that you bring up the sneaky T1 Barons, because as the team with the soul point, they get the luxury of dragging you across the map. They can go for either side, whereas AL, it's much more difficult here to spread your vision resources, keep track of both of these objectives, and make sure that T1 don't sneak the bigger of the two.
Yeah.
Regardless, though, T1 would still be very happy with just going over to progress here through the Dragon area. This is up in only 1 minute.
And with 1 minute on the clock, powerful items are starting to come online. You can see the Seeker's Arm Guard available for Shanks, especially on Ryze. When he can use the Realm Warp to put himself in the middle of everybody, this can be a massive, massive playmaking tool for getting in there and playing aggressively towards the backline of T1. Taking count of summoner spells, gentlemen, it's everything. Every single summoner spell is ready. Ghost swapped in for Keria's Rakan. Exhaust swapped in for Kael's Braum as AL try to force T1 back from the bottom side river. 30 seconds to go until the Infernal Soul spawns for T1.
And Faker's recalling right now. That's got to be a death cap for him. He has teleport. As you said, all of these summoner spells are available. He has the cap just in time.
All right, Faker's got some headwear, but it's AL with control over the bot side river. Oner and Gumayusi wanting to step up a little bit here. TP coming in from Doran. He's going to be the one to try to face check. Keria takes some damage from Shanks. Has to use the Grand Entrance to get himself back away. AL with control over the river still for now. Flandre looking around in the blue buff area, but he won't find anything. Kael down to half HP already from the T1 poke. That's only going to get scarier if T1 secure this objective. Kael using the Unbreakable, blocks the piercing arrow. Poke trading back and forth still between both sides. Keep your eyes on the engage, keep your eyes on Keria. Flandre digging into the pit, putting that tunnel down, making sure he has some extra mobility for the upcoming fight as T1 want to step forward. Doran then going to crush the tunnel. Kael, half HP still, going to use Redemption early here for AL just to make sure the health bars stay topped off. Flandre marked on the side, seismic shove onto the AL top laner. Chain CC on the Flandre, he's already down. T1 have found the pick. Supreme display of talent, tries to hold the line, but into the back line goes Oner. Hope is being chased, Tarzan's being killed. Anyone's legend is being crushed as Shanks tries to fight back in a 1v4, but he'll get nothing but an epitaph as T1 kill 4 and take Soul.
T1 go fishing and they find Flandre. They pick him off and they decimate AL in the team fight.
Hope is trying desperately to hold on, but T1 are chasing.
Baker's riding the wall in. Hope's gonna be the last to die. A delayed ace for T1, and the delay makes it even better because now, even when AL respawns, they are not gonna have everyone all at once. They will not be full strength. T1 won't just take the soul. They're gonna take the whole enemy team. They're gonna take the top lane turret. They're gonna take Baron, and they're gonna take a hell of a hold on this game.
And all of it is because Keria was doing such a good job of matching Tarzan. The Tarzan tried to move, and they sent Flandre into his death as T1 find the pick they need, and the immediate follow-up with Keria, with Oner. They find Hope. They shut down AL's Hope as the rest of T1 clears up in the pit.
Oh, Keria is back, baby. He camped on that control ward. He starts out the play onto Flandre, setting up the seismic shove, and then he continues the play, as you say, jumping over the wall, finding the rest of the members. Keria Rakan finding multiple big engages.
And it feels like this is now T1's game entirely. They'll be able to push in these waves. The poke that was already so difficult at that last dragon, now only amplified thanks to the soul. And T1, they're going to start to move down here. They will spot out Hope, but do they know AL are in the bush?
AL trying to set some kind of a trap. They know a fair fight doesn't favor them any longer. Kael going to be trapped on the wrong side of the Weaver's wall. Seismic shove connects onto Shanks, who immediately goes golden. But it's going to be a 2-for-1 deal. Supreme display of talent at least takes Keria out in the process. But T1 have still won the fight. They're going to keep pushing forward. They've got the Baron, they've got the Soul, they've got the enemy tier 1 turret down. They've got Oner diving into the back line. But the escape is there for the rest of AL. Flandre trying to distract, get something else back over in the mid lane here at the same time, try to get an objective bounty because AL know they are not fighting back in the bottom lane. T1 take the tier 2.
Gumayusi's chains of corruptions, locking down Shanks, making sure that neither him or Kael could get out of there. T1, they are in the heads of anyone's legend.
I mean, it's T1 at Worlds versus the LPL. And T1 down here, after they've already gotten so many big objectives, Flowers, you were just talking about how much they won off the previous fight, they get right back to it. Seismic shove here gets Shanks, and they immediately get his Zonias. The response from Tarzan to try and get at least something back from AL, does get them a tiny bit, but T1 are not stopping.
Oh, Flandre, he's got to try to get out of there. Rek'sai, luckily very slippery, takes the blast cone, gets knocked back to safety, but T1 are not slowing down anytime soon. Still about 45 seconds left on that Red Bull Baron power play as they continue to take more and more of the map from anyone's legend.
And that's the biggest issue. We've already seen how quickly T1 can collapse, how quickly T1 can find those picks, and now the map is dark. And T1 continue to push in this top side. AL are attempting to get here, but this tower is gone.
Nothing left of the tier 2 top. Another one falls, and T1's gold lead climbs back over 6,000 as the Baron, still 20 seconds left on this one. Another wave about to come towards the tier 3. And it looks like this is going to be the last wave that T1 get to push with. We'll see if they want to try to make the full break of the base. Here's your Weaver's Wall. T1 going to summon the Redemption immediately just to make sure they can power through this. Realm Warp from Shanks just to make sure he's not caught on the wrong side of the Taliyah ulti. And that's T1 using every second of the Baron to grab their first inhibitor of the game.
Getting the TP here from Kael and Tarzan. Looks like they're going to try and make some sort of sneaky play as T1 are coming back out of the map and try and find something in this, because we're 2 minutes out from Elder Dragon. That is going to be the death warrant of AL signed.
How powerful is T1 Aura at Worlds?
They're strong, man.
Honestly, strongest thing I've ever seen.
The plot armor is crazy, man.
They said it themselves last year, come in as the 4th seed, and they left holding the trophy. This tournament, they came in not looking super strong, and yet coming out in this game, they win that one fight at the Dragon. They win it very heavily, but they get so many rewards, the Dragon Soul plus the Baron, and they immediately just take over the entire map.
But it's not even this tournament, right? Like, you look down the roster of AL, it's Hope in 2022 lost against T1 on JDG in quarterfinals. It was Tarzan who lost against them in semifinals. And then even Flandre, the year he won Worlds, still lost to T1 0-2 in groups. It just feels like it is so difficult for LPL teams to match up against T1.
They have looked a lot better at MSI, but this ain't MSI. All right, T1, let's see if they can finish the job here at Flowers. Again, this is a full best of 5 as well. We are going the distance today. T1 here in game number 1 have jumped out to a very sizable lead for themselves. Now all that's left is to push in for one split push. Since they already have the top inhibitor down, they can just do mid and bottom. Currently, though, they're actually split a little bit more, with Faker going back using his, I assume, extra teleport being at the ready here. He'll just answer the wave that Flandre is pushing and then join at the next cause.
There is some vision in behind T1 though, and maybe that's what AL are looking for. You can see they're pinging that ward that's just over by the T1 blue brush, and that may be what they're trying to get Flandre onto, as Faker going to match that push in the top side, but they need to go very quickly if they want to make this play work.
Exactly. Elder spawning in 5 seconds. This objective, for how powerful the buff is, dies very quick.
And the money at this point in the game, it becomes really, really difficult to overcome because you get to purchase all of these like one fight power points. The Guardian Angel here on Oner just makes Pantheon a completely different weapon. You can just ult right into the back line. You can go for flash point and click stun plays, and you have so many other defensives. You know, the spell shield here for Guma with the Edge of Night. You've got the arm guard for Faker. So the luxury of creating some more spectacular plays is now afforded to them because of the gold lead.
You can see Flandre's tremor senses are tingling. He knows T1 is in that fog of war, but it's so dangerous for AL to step up. Keria with flash, with exhaust here on the Rakan. Kael swapped over to a ghost on his Braum.
Looks like T1 don't know where Tarzan is though. There was pings going over towards their own jungle, wondering if Tarzan had managed to sneak his way in, but Dragon now started and Tarzan spotted as well.
Okay, Oner and Keria are the only two around the Dragon Pit for now. TP coming in. Faker is ready to join back up with the rest of the team after purchasing the Crypt Bloom. AL starting up the Elder Dragon now. T1 watching on, waiting for the rest of the team to approach. Elder Dragon down to about 1/2 HP. Hope taking a chunk of damage. Doran charging in. Weaver's Wall over the top. Kael's going to be caught. A ton of burst onto the support of anyone's legend, and he's already down. T1 charge forward. Double kill to Gumayusi. Pressure onto Tarzan. Triple kill Guma. AL are cut to pieces, and T1 holds the sword. Flandre's last to die, and ace for T1 will be the end of game 1.
Great force there from T1. They use their wallets and they destroy AL at the Dragon one more time.
Doran putting the last touches here on the Nexus turrets. The Elder Dragon is claimed, but there's no one left to execute. The game was quiet. The game was close for so very long. But when it came down to the clutch, it's T1 who prove why they are the reigning back-to-back world champions. They out-teamfight AL, and they'll take the first game in this best of 5.